Hey, what's up, everybody? And thank you for listening to Operation Agency Freedom, where we are bringing you top secret advice from the world's most badass digital agency owners. These amazing men and women are sharing their stories of how they have built 6, 7, and 8-figure digital agencies and how you can too. My name is Chris Martinez, CEO of Dude, where we help digital agencies by giving them the people and the processes so that they can scale profitably. Today, I am super excited because I've got my friend, April Iannazzone, and I swear I'm going to get that last name correct by the end of the show. April from Growth and Profitability on today. Thank you so much for being on here, April.
My pleasure, and thanks for having me. I just realized after listening to you and watching your face as you did it, we need to re-record my intro because I love your enthusiasm on our podcast. We need to change ours.
You know what's funny is that I actually, before I started Dude and I had my digital agency, there was a radio show here in San Diego. Well, I had a radio show here in San Diego, and it was through the ESPN AM 1070 network. Basically, like a guy rents at the time, and he's like, "You sound like you kind of know what you're talking about." So he put me on the air. So me and a buddy of mine, Henry, we had a radio show for about 6 months on the air. And so that was really, really fun. And, they kind of give you some coaching and stuff like that.
Perfect.
So my favorite part of the show was when we would bring on guests. And so they would be, just entrepreneurs from the local community. But because it's in a studio, right? And you got the headset and you got the mic flag and there's ESPN logos everywhere. And you have like the real recording studio, and people would get so nervous. They would be like almost like shaking, and we had maybe like 5,000 listeners maybe, which if you think about it, that's a lot, but for radio it's nothing. It's not like a nationally syndicated show. And so I would always like try and break the tension, and I would look at them when before the show starts, like maybe like 30 seconds before we were going to go in, and I'd be like, "Are you nervous? You should be so nervous right now." And then
yeah, that helps.
They would but then they would just start laughing, and then they would go into it. So it was
perfect.
But I appreciate the compliment. So we always start every show with a little kind of like roundtable discussion. And one thing that I admire you for is the fact that you have an amazing agency, and then of course you also have this amazing family, 2 daughters, husband. And I know that for a lot of agency owners, they struggle with trying to find the balance, right? It's like, how do I be with my family and be a supportive partner and a great parent? And then how do I also run a successful agency? And what I kind of mentioned to you earlier before we started the show was that people feel like if they're with one, they're neglecting the other. And so to me, it seems like you've found this great balance. And so I wanted for you to talk a little bit about that before we get into your story. So what are some of the things that you're doing to try and make both things work, the family and the agency?
And, I think it's important to say that there really never is a balance. So, this past week we're moving into, it's been a long process of moving into a new office. We have a big event coming up. We brought on a couple of big clients, newer clients. So this last couple of weeks have been very stressful, but we still, it's just a little bit of time, and then we go back to our regular routine. Mm-hmm. So for us, it was 2 main things. One, my husband and my children had to be on board. And I say children, but they're almost 16 and 18 now. So They had to be on board with the whole vision. So a lot of people have their husbands or wives involved in the business. My husband's very out of the business, but he is fully supportive. And he knows why we're working. And I say we, but he knows why I'm working this hard for our family. So they're supportive in the background, but for what I do, it's very important to me when I'm at work, whether I'm at home working or whether I'm at the office, I'm fully dedicated to work. And, they'll send me messages or call, and we'll talk a little bit, but I get right back to work. Same at home. If I'm home, I'm home. Everything is turned off. A few clients have my phone number. It used to be where I carried around 2 phones. for like the first year and a half of my business, I made myself too accessible to clients. So they were texting me, calling me all the time, Facebook messaging me, which is great if they had that level where they could have that accessibility, right?
Mhm.
So it was important to me moving forward. And that's why I got the second phone. I'm sorry, I jumped around. That's why I got the second phone, so I could leave one away and still have my personal. Then, we transitioned to our clients to know there's boundaries. So to go back, the number one thing is to really set boundaries from the
Mhm.
beginning. And most of us know we should set them, but don't set them until it's way too late. And then we have to retrain our clients. So if we train our clients from the beginning to know the boundaries, and we respect our own boundaries as well, meaning if there's a client has something that they need to get done,
Mhm.
and we know we can do it, but it will take away from the family. You have to use your judgment if you should really do that, or if it's something that could wait. A lot of times it's something we think is urgent, but is not really urgent for the client,
Yeah,
and our family suffers that way.
that's great.
Um, yeah. So,
So
I'm sorry.
getting back, you said the importance of getting everybody on board. So meaning like your daughters and your husband. So I mean, what does that look like? Do you guys actually have like a formal like family meeting and say, hey guys, this is what's going to take place, or like do you involve them in some way, shape, or form? Like how do you do that? How do you get people on board?
So since my kids were little, they were involved in the business as we do a lot of events. So I
Hmm.
would get them involved and come to the events, set it up, so they see all the hard work that goes in on the back end.
Hmm.
Um, so we don't have formal meetings because this is our seventh year, 6.5 years we've been in business now. So they kind of know what's coming. But what's I've found, and I don't know if your listeners have experienced this, but because my husband is not in the business, and because he's not an entrepreneur, he's very much um, he was a fireman, he was in the Navy, very strict and scheduled person, but
Yeah.
doesn't have that bigger vision or bigger mindset. Sometimes on my side, I have to know what to share and what not to share, because some of my bigger ideas, like if I would have said, oh, we're going to have a 7-figure or 8-figure business 5 years ago, he would have been like, okay, whatever. So I think I had to share a little bit at a time as far as the vision. But I let them know what's coming up. I was preparing for, this is going to be a busy month. I let them know this is coming, and then we're going, we're taking the vacation, but I have to work hard during this time so we can use, the next time where I can be unplugged.
Yeah.
Um,
That's great. I personally, I love vacations. I'm a huge fan of vacations. Actually, Liz, my producer, who's sitting right over here, she's going on vacation in a couple weeks. I'm super excited for her. So I agree with you. I think that, like if there's a sprint where you basically have to be heads down, going deep into, whatever project it is, it definitely helps to have some sort of experience at the end where you can get everybody together and they can enjoy the success, right? Because it is a team. It's a team effort.
And I love that you said that, because most of the time we have this big sprint and then we get into delivering whether it was a launch or whether it was bringing on a new client, we get into delivering and we can't celebrate what just we accomplished.
Yeah.
So that's very important for your whole team and your family as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's get into your story because I've known you for probably, God, it's got to be like a year now. And I am a huge fan of your agency. I know that you're doing amazing things and I love your niche. I think it's fantastic. I think that you are the perfect personality for the niche. I mean, everything just seems like it's in alignment for you. So let's talk about your agency, how you got started and what it is that you guys do.
Awesome. Thank you. So we kind of fell in, like every other agency owner, fell in by accident to the agency life. We've had a very successful coaching and consulting firm for many years. We hired a Facebook agency. They didn't do a great job. We were in the middle of a big launch. We hired a second agency that was well known in the industry. And I trusted that everything was taken care of. And on our side, you were busy in the launch. You're doing all of these things to make the sales. And I just trusted because they were so well known that they had it under control. And then tens of thousands of dollars later, and not to mention all of the missed opportunities that we had investing that money, we were no further ahead because of them. So, and I shouldn't say because of them, because I also wasn't watching what was going on and monitoring. So fully not their fault. But from there, I decided, okay, I just have to learn Facebook ads. And we started doing them ourselves. And then I hired somebody just to run ours full time.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we started running our coaching clients, and we invested in a lot more training, and had a Facebook ads team for coaching clients. I don't love the coaching industry. I'll say that now. I love it, but I don't love who I was going after in the coaching industry. I should change that up a little bit. So I didn't love our niche in the coaching industry.
Which is okay. I mean, a lot of the times you go into a niche and you realize, hey, this isn't really what I thought it was going to be. And then you make a pivot. That's how you learn.
And the thing is, I still love helping that niche. It was women entrepreneurs just starting out. I love helping that niche. We have a lot of free workshops and trainings and everything, but you grow out of a niche, but you also, and your agency owners probably can understand this, you also start to realize that some of them don't want to scale or don't want to, they're one-man show and they can't invest in their business, or they don't have that bigger vision to take it to the next level. So you could only help them go so far if they don't have.
Absolutely. I think certain industries, there's just a natural cap or a ceiling, and it's just physically impossible for them to get beyond that, which is okay. You know, it could be okay for them, but you, in terms of like looking to grow your agency and charge higher prices, and, you know, sometimes it just doesn't work out.
It's either mass or it's, a few that you are amazing and doing amazing job for, making great money with, or it's let's bring it in the masses.
Yeah.
But from there, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, it sounds like there's a pivot coming. So let's hear that part of it.
There's a pivot coming. So we started doing the agency stuff. We opened it to other people. We started doing Facebook ads just to advertise the agency, which was only Facebook. At the time, it was only Facebook, and it was done for you sales funnels or lead generation funnels. And it was awesome, right? Everybody was signing up. Everybody was saying yes. We were charging a big amount of money, but we had a great reputation. So everybody was saying yes. And we were spread across all different industries. And that's, I think, when I joined the group that you and I met in, because I was burnt out.
That's Jason's group, Jason Swank?
Jason Swank, yeah.
Yeah, okay, awesome.
And that's, I was burnt out. I was involved in every single project, which I finally got myself out of that. And our coaching teams were handling everything else. And then I was doing it to myself again in this new industry. So I was trying to, and I'm all about systemizing, scaling, and repeating, but I put myself in this where I couldn't systemize and scale. The sales conversation was different for everybody that came on. The way that we marketed was different for every Facebook ad that came on. If we were doing a podcast, it was too general and broad. So I really wanted to get real with myself. Like, who do I love working with? What industry or what niche is going to excite me or keep me motivated, I should say, because I want to keep creating content for that niche. And then also, what niche has the money to pay what I'm going to charge, which is something I think a lot of people don't think about.
Well, it's super important. And I think a lot of people feel uncomfortable asking themselves that question, because a lot of us, I would say 80% of the agency owners that I meet, like, we're very, and this is kind of a cliche term, like heart-centered. Like, we want to help people. We legitimately care about our clients and getting them results. And so, but what happens is that sometimes we end up feeling like we shouldn't charge the rates that we want to charge. And so I think as you're evaluating the niche, you have to ask yourself, like, be realistic and say, hey, like, is this niche going to be able to pay what I am worth?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, you know, I had a few different areas that I wanted to focus, a few different niches that interest me. I really sat down and I asked myself all of these questions again. What are you not going to get tired producing content for?
Mhm.
Um, and, you know, the medical spa industry is something that's only growing at this point. It's only getting bigger. It's never going to decrease, and people are just recently talking about it more. It's more open to say, okay, yes, I get Botox, or I do, you know, it's more, it's just starting out to where it really is going to be.
Mhm.
So that was one thing. Another thing is the lifetime value of a patient is ridiculous, because once someone finds the medical spa that's doing great work, you're with them until you're dead. You know,
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
would never leave mine until, if they're doing a great job, I would never leave until you know, I no longer care what what my appearance is. So the lifetime value is great. So that's where we ended up, and I'm loving it. And with when you niche down though, with our industry, there's a lot of people doing it, but nobody's doing it with the authority
Mhm.
or the like you have this podcast. Nobody really thinks about all of the other pieces that go in, which I'm thankful I have that coaching background that could bring it all together, because it's something that we can take over very quickly.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let me ask you about working with the med spa industry, and particularly, you know, they are a little bit higher ticket items, I'm guessing, and I'm sure that the trust factor of like building, because like I imagine that very rarely does somebody see a med spa ad for the first time, pick up the phone and say, "Okay, inject me with Botox." Do you find that there's a little bit longer of a nurturing sequence in that vertical?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. And I think that's why we are actually converting more of our sales calls,
Mhm.
or the way that we do it, is because nobody has ever really explained that. The other agencies that are out there are explaining that part, but they don't really know how to build that know, like, and trust factor quickly to get you know, them to say yes when they come in for a consultation. So it's really a very systemized approach that if we weren't just geared towards medical spas, it would be very hard for us to do to the extent we do.
So what type of advice would you give to an agency owner who's out there who kind of has that same challenge? Because you know you do have to plant the seeds of the right expectations for the clients. If you know, like if we run an ad today and your client doesn't actually pick up the phone for 3 weeks, you might not really see the ROI on your ad spend for maybe another 3 weeks after that. So how can you give some advice to the agency owners about how to position yourself or set the right expectations with the clients so that you can, you know, win the deals and your clients don't feel like, oh man, you know, this isn't working.
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is we actually have, like, we call it the blueprint. So we sell them this blueprint, and which converts them into the bigger package. But this
Perfect.
blueprint really is mapped out of the customer journey. So they see all of the different steps and what it takes to move that customer, that prospect, all the way to a customer. And as we're delivering this blueprint and we're walking the client through this, they realize, like, the first few things are really just to build awareness, and then the
Mhm.
second is to get them interested. And now that they're interested but they didn't buy, they're going to see a video talking about, you know, common objections to overcome all of that.
Mhm.
So we really go into it on the front end, where it's a very low investment for them,
Mhm.
um, to see this whole plan. And if they, if it's a good fit for both of us, we end up selling them into the build out and the management, which after they see that, most of them say, you know what, it's a no brainer. Nobody's ever put this together. And it's probably something that most of the people are doing on theirs, the agencies are doing, but they just don't share it with them.
Yes, yes,
So that's the
absolutely.
important part.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you. You kind of like you set me up perfectly for this next question because I feel like the blueprint that you've created, which is awesome, it's something that we as agency people just kind of take for granted. What percentage of your agencies, or I'm sorry, of your clients, your med spas that you talk to, have ever seen a blueprint like that before from somebody else?
No one. No one.
Zero. 0%. If you guys are out there listening to this, take it from April, literally 0% of her clients have seen any type of blueprint. They literally, like, agencies are going out there and they're just saying, you need this and you need this and we need to drive traffic and here's your lead magnet and da 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 da. Nobody is taking the time to explain why or like the roadmap. It's
Mhm.
so powerful. I love that. And obviously it's working for you. Great.
And we give the option, and I think I actually learned this from Jason.
Mhm.
I'm not positive, but I think it came from Jason Swank, where they said during that first foot in the door, or whatever they call it,
Mhm.
you either give them their money back if they don't think it would work for them after the whole presentation,
Mhm.
or they can take it and run with it on their own if they want to keep it in all of the assets, or they can apply that fee towards the final build out. And I want to preface this that we don't offer everybody the build out and the management. Sometimes it's just that blueprint, and we say, from what we see, you guys are going to do awesome with this blueprint, but our end goal is really to scale them bigger. So if we don't think they have the back end to scale on their side, like only one person's taking sales, things like that, the calls, then we don't ever offer them the other part. But out of all of the people we ever offered that second piece, only one has ever asked for a refund, and it wasn't because they didn't want it, but because they didn't have the money to do the build out and they knew that they couldn't implement it on their own. So that piece is so powerful to sell.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it probably wasn't going to be a great customer for you at that time. Who knows? Maybe they come back 5 years from now and they purchase, they $100,000 program from you. But at the time, probably wasn't a good fit for either of you.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you a question really quickly about getting leads, because I think that you all do a lot of events and that's where a lot of your lead gen comes from. Is that correct? Is that how you find most of your clients, or
Uh,
conventions?
so not so much for the agency side,
Okay.
but more for the coaching. So we do coaching on the med spa
Uh-huh.
group, like really for employees that are CEOs that still feel like they're employee in their business. So that 500 to 1.5 million range.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we fill a lot of our coaching and mastermind stuff. For the agency, really what was working for us is Facebook ads, which we actually paused them because we cannot, with the event coming up, we just actually couldn't take on more clients at the moment.
Yes.
And that's why we talked to you for a little bit.
Yeah.
So Facebook ads was working really well, and we do have sales reps that go out and generate and follow up leads. We have a very, very specific system that we use that converts really well.
Well, awesome. Well, I'm going to have to ask you about that later because I actually have some questions about sales reps, because we're looking at bringing on some salespeople for Dude, actually. So I want to switch gears a little bit. And, we asked you what are some of the things that inspire you. And one of the things that you had mentioned was this Fresh Start program. So I wanted you to tell us about Fresh Start, what it is that it does, and how that keeps you going every day, and to help you, fight through a lot of the pains of growing an agency.
Perfect. So with Fresh Start Surgical Gifts, with all of what we do, it's always important to give back. So whether it's volunteering in our community, whether it's having workshops or free trainings for the women entrepreneurs, it's very important for us. So when we started the Med Spa growth and profitability side of the business, we wanted to find a charity that really is changing lives. And we found Fresh Start. Most of the children are from the US, which was kind of important to me.
Mm-hmm.
And about 30% do come from other countries,
Mm-hmm.
but it's kids that their lives, even if insurance wouldn't cover it and their parents couldn't afford it, if they had any kind of deformity that insurance didn't consider a deformity,
Mm-hmm.
they actually, they do the surgeries. All of the surgeons are volunteer time.
Mm-hmm.
The 100% of the money goes back to the actual procedures and the travel and the family stuff. So for us, we give a certain percentage back. Our clients love that they're contributing to that, which is, again, if you guys aren't doing something where you're getting your clients involved in that bigger mission,
Yeah.
That could be the thing that sets you apart if they're deciding between two agencies. So that's kind of important. The other thing that kind of keeps me going, and I love the fresh start, and that's my number two. My number one is really showing my daughters that they have the ability to make any amount of money on their own without needing support from anybody else. And after my divorce, we went through this crazy thing where I was begging my ex-husband to stay with me. It was just because I was afraid that I couldn't support myself and my two babies at the time. So that's really what drives me to be an example for them.
That's awesome. And have your daughters, started a business, whether that be selling candy at the school or whatever? Like, have they gotten bitten with the entrepreneurial bug?
They do not want to. So I don't. So I know I'm planting the seed. I'm setting the example for them, but they're very school oriented. I think they're at also the teenage age where whatever mom does, we do not want to do.
It's not cool.
So it's not cool, but I know that they're retaining a lot of the information.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, you never know when that stuff's going to kick in. Just me being I remember being a super rebellious teenager, and then as an adult, I'm like, yeah, my parents are right about that one thing. So it definitely will stick and come in handy later on.
Yeah. And I'm just going to add one last thing.
Yeah, of course.
Funny. So we use Entreport, the email marketing system, and they have their boot camp coming up. So I was trying to get my 16-year-old to come there, and I'd get her certified because all of her friends are making $7 an hour. And I'm like, if you get this certification, you could make $60 or $70 an hour by freelancing. And she's like, Mom, but I don't want. I'm like, okay, that's fine. But it's just a funny point.
That when you're not looking, she's Googling like Entreport and like, what is this? Exactly. Awesome. Well, you know what, April, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. What is the best way for people to get in contact with you?
Really anywhere on social media. You can just look me up, April Iannazzone, or send me a direct email at april@growthandprofitability.com. And thank you. This was awesome.
Yeah. And who would be the perfect person to reach out to you today?
The perfect person would be a med spa owner, a medical spa owner, or any kind of plastic surgeon that really does not have a steady lead flow. So their business is inconsistent, or they're relying strictly on word of mouth, which is great, but it eventually runs out. So if you hit a plateau, you're ready to get that repeatable, scalable system, that's who we're perfect for.
Awesome. Again, thanks so much for being here, April. To all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in today, and make sure you return next Thursday and every Thursday for the next episode of Operation Agency Freedom. Thank you guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye. Hasta luego.